I didn't receive it, no. Yeah. The person that I knew. I was wondering whether it was there when Longarina I received it, because I knew her personally and worked with her. But I'm on the board of Peace Jam, which is the Nobel laureates and a large thing. And so the nuclear.
They're the Nobel.
Yeah.
Peace Jam.
Yeah,
That was one.
All of the Peace Jam, their members are Nobel laureates, and I represent Betty Williams, who has since died. I can't. That's fine.
But we were there the day that they made the announcement
of somebody winning either the nuclear, was it, then they won it for nuclear weapons?
Yes.
Okay, because it was the treaty to TPNW, the treaty to prohibit nuclear weapons. And
I'll allude to it, you can explain it all.
Okay. I'm not going to explain too much of those things, but
Sounds like way.
oh, it went away again.
Yes, and you know what? I am you're right about that, so another.
I'm wondering if
I
don't know.
I speak here. Yeah.
I keep losing the same earring.
I don't think. Oh, it's 8:36.
No, I want it so that I am very likely to trip.
Oh, I see, okay.
This is my reminder.
Okay, sorry.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I think everybody here knows me. I'm Sheila Troupe, and I am here with my friends of 52 years. We've all been married 53. We met in Chicago. We did live in the same apartment building, but then Ron and I moved away, and never forget the wonderful things that can happen from something that happens bad. So I hit their friends, and you were classmates or MBA candidates together at Northwestern. I hit their friend's car as I was going out on a flight. I was a TWA flight attendant, and I was leaving on a flight. Well, I couldn't wait around to so I put a note on the car to contact my husband. And from that incident, we have had this long time relationship, of which they've moved around the country all over the place, but also to Southern California. And we set up lunch when we were in Chicago? No.
For your birthday?
Yeah, that was here.
That was here, yes.
Okay, we set up lunch one day.
No,
And,
1978.
okay. And she calls up and says that she's not going to be able to join us. I said, well, you better have a really good reason. And her reason was that she was giving birth to her son on my birthday. So now we've even shared birthday stories together. And Dave's dad was born the day before I was, and turned the significant birthdays on the same year that I have my significant. So his 100th was on my whatever it was. And we were out of the country. And so the next year we go to his birthday party on the 23rd. And I have to say, he went the way that I want to go, because he was at the party. He introduced everybody there, including all little kids, the big kids, the neighbors, everybody. It was out in Thousand Oaks. And by the time we got home, he had walked across the street, sat in his chair, and passed away. And if I can go that way, he is my inspiration as to how I want to go. So anyway, no further introductions. And Monica's got a lot of things that I will probably prompt her to allude about herself because she's kind of shy about sharing some of these wonderful things. But anyway,
You know
no
her?
further introduction.
This is, they met, 20 years,
The
50 years ago.
Yeah, 52 years ago. How they met.
Someone has an open mic on the Zoom. So if you can mute yourselves on Zoom for right now and let us know when you want in. Okay. And you've got a mic.
Okay. Why, hello, because I said to Sheila, I can't see everybody from here, so I'm going to walk around with this if you don't mind. Oh, does that matter for Zoom? Okay. Hello, I'm Monica Willard, and as you know, I am Sheila's good friend and Ron's, and it has been a joy knowing the Troupe family and the Creasy family. For so many years, I've been to some of the famous slumber parties, and we even housed one at our home in New York. Sheila met me, we were both teachers. When I lived in Thousand Oaks, I got training, was a marriage, family, and child counselor, and then moved to New York and got very involved in community issues. So I just think of myself as a very dedicated activist. And that activism led me to be a non-governmental organization's representative to the UN since 1991. I continue in that role, but I don't go in as much anymore, but passionate about certain issues. And the issue that brought me to the United Nations was the Ribbon International. I met a wonderful woman I didn't meet her. The story was, and I love it that we're talking in a church, it was from her Christmas card list, from Church Women United and church women's groups around the world, that brought the issue of nuclear weapons into churches, into homes, into libraries, into schools. And it wasn't brought in through the book Hiroshima, which was my introduction as a high school student. It was brought in by asking people to pause. And I'm going to ask you to make this thought. What is it that you cannot bear to think of as lost forever in the event of a nuclear war? And as you hold that in your mind and heart, what she asked people to do about it was to put it on cloth. And the cloth panels were called ribbons. Oh, I'll let you hold this ribbon. This was made by an artist. Many were made by children. Many were made by families. We had one. And the ribbons went around the Pentagon on the weekend celebrating the 40th anniversary of Hiroshima in 1985. We were down in Washington, D.C. with our family when they were little kids. And I happened to find the one that I made at the Pentagon. And the ribbon was to go around the Pentagon, much like they would say, tie a yellow ribbon around your finger to remember. It was a gentle reminder of what the cost would be if there was ever another nuclear exchange. And after that, there was a whole elimination. And this was a tiny part of it. There were long negotiations. There were a lot of things going on. But one that happened was one whole range of nuclear weapons were abolished at that point, shortly thereafter. And we moved into SALT and other negotiations. And we've never been closer to a nuclear war than we are right now. So the importance of looking at both the morality, the fear, the money, the exchange, the climate, the world. When someone said to me a few years back, we are holding the fate of the planet in our hands. So what do you do with that? One of the things that I do is pray. And so nuclear weapons started me at the UN because the Ribbon International became a non-governmental organization at the UN. And I have carried that particular passion with me throughout my career at the United Nations. I have a little pin on me. I don't know if you can see it. It's a round star. The United Religions Initiative is the organization I represent at the UN. It's an organization I helped found, and it's an organization with deep California roots. The founder of my organization was the Bishop of the state of California, William E. Swing, the Episcopal Bishop, out of Grace Cathedral. And for the 50th anniversary of the United Nations, the UN had contacted Grace Cathedral and said, we want to have a special ceremony, a service to acknowledge the importance of spirit and prayer and connectedness. And can we use Grace Cathedral, and will you help us? And he said, oh, sure, you can use Grace Cathedral. And then he realized he didn't really work with a lot of people from other faiths. And he needed to do this for the 50th anniversary of the UN. And so out of that core group that helped him organize that service was the first interfaith gathering of really working with people in other faith traditions. And so Bill traveled around the world talking to people about working together to help with the goals of the UN: peace, sustainability, justice, and human rights. But these were not new things for churches. What have churches been doing forever? Feeding the poor, helping the hungry. It is not a new issue, but we do it from a different way, and it's a service. And so you're here as part of your service, and to learn and to be good stewards on this earth. And when I hold up that ribbon and I look at that ribbon in my office every day, it's the earth. It's the people on the earth. It's the water, it's the minerals, it's the whole thing. And if we don't really treat it with love, respect, and gratitude to all, even those we disagree with terribly, we aren't going to make it. And that, to me, is what I learned from my Christianity, because Jesus treated everyone, the sinners, the women. He treated everyone with love, respect, and dignity. And that is core to the human rights agenda of the UN, which I just want to remind you is going to be 75 years old on December 10th. And these inalienable rights are something that all the governments have agreed to in order to be part of the UN. So let's go back to my story a little bit now. And International Day of Peace has been near and dear to my heart since 1997. I had been working with the Department of Public Information at that time. It's now called the Department of Global Communications. And they wanted to bring youth into the UN. Well, I had youth at that time. They were in middle school and high school. And so I said, sure, we can bring youth into the UN. And we expanded it out through the PTA networks and other networks. But this youth program turned into an annual event, and it was held just Thursday. So I have some pictures to bring you to the UN as well, because it has been near and dear to my life, and there's been a calendar of events that have made it even that much more important, because most people who know me know that 9/21 is the International Day of Peace. And that's why I wanted to focus on this particular year for you here today, because you can see what the theme poster was: actions for peace, our ambition for the global goals. And the other name for the global goals are the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And there are 17 of them that really align with what we are working towards. And we have a website, but we're not going to go there yet. I'll give you that website to look at. But it was actions for peace. And the Secretary General gives an announcement on June 13th, which is one of those dates that I happen to remember because it's my husband's birthday as well. But it's a 100-day countdown to the International Day of Peace. And so we've been working on actions for peace in various ways, and including people to do their actions for peace, not necessarily huge ones, because those aren't the ones that touch your heart, but it's, meeting someone and doing something kind, as well as politically or anything else. But for me, this year and the last couple of years, it has been Nuclear Prayer Day. And one of the things that I brought today for each of you is a copy of the Nuclear Prayer, and I'm going to disseminate them. These were supposed to be ready. I'm sorry, but I have good helpers. Because I mentioned William Swing as the founder of the United Religions Initiative. As they're opening that, I'm going to go back to who the URI is. It is in 116 countries. It is interfaith groups that meet together. You have to have a minimum of 7 people from 3 distinct faith or cultural or diversity kind of things coming together to look at a local issue. And we have well over 1 million members acting in 116 countries. And I have had the good fortune of working with them since the organization was being founded, because I was at the 50th anniversary of the UN, bringing the ribbon and meeting the people, and was a part of the organization of this organization. It's near and dear to my heart. But a number of years ago, Bill Swing, who had also served in Washington, D.C., knew a lot of government people, but some of them moved to San Francisco, one being George Shultz. There was Ambassador Goodby, there's Secretary of Defense, William Perry. There is a person I've had the good fortune of working with a lot at the UN. His name is Jonathan Granoff, some real experts in nuclear negotiations. And I was the only woman on the group, and we formed a cooperation circle. And it's called Voices for a World Free of Nuclear Weapons. And each year on August the 6th, we give, now for the 4th year, an award to youth working on nuclear abolition. But we decided, how can we get more people to really pay attention to this? And so we created Nuclear Prayer Day, which is August the 6th. And we did an event at St. Bartholomew's in New York City this year. And the youth event is called the Gorbachev-Shultz Legacy Award, because they worked with Gorbachev before he died. And George Shultz had been a long personal friend with Bill and worked with us on this particular group. And so it's a legacy award looking at people who really did make a difference on negotiating nuclear weapons, ending the Cold War, and turning things from what seemed like an impossibility. And so, to me, one of the ways you can get things turned around is by adding prayer and spirit and care. And basically, if somebody asked me what I have done at the UN most of my life, it is to add spirit, the spirit of peace, the spirit. I was the one who had a car and nobody else did, so I get to do all the schlucking of stuff into meetings and things like that. So it depends on what you're doing. But if you do it often enough, people know you show up. And this particular prayer I would like to share with you, and I promised it would be a little bit of interaction. So I'm going to ask you, as we come to an end, if you'd like to read this with me to close. Oh, you want? Oh, I wanted to, there are more I was going to do. I'm not closing. Okay. I want to bring you to the UN this week for the International Day of Peace to show you what it is that I've been doing since 1997. And I need my husband, because I haven't the vaguest idea how to get it from the computer to the screen to Zoom. And welcome to our friends on Zoom. Thank you for being with us. Thank Dave Willard for his help, and Ryan for the amazing technology that you have to bring us all together. This was Thursday morning. Okay, well, the other part of the goal is the Sustainable Development Goals. Can I see a show of hands if people have even heard about the SDGs, the global goals, the Sustainable Development Goals? I have a website that you can go to afterwards, and I'm going to ask you to pick a number between 1 and 17, and then to find out which sustainable goal matches the number in your mind. And we'll have a cheat sheet because we have it. But These have been goals that were set up in 2015. All of the countries agreed to go to them, and needless to say, along with everything else, between COVID, lack of money, a lot of things, these goals are not on track to be met, to really no poverty, no hunger, girls' education, or education for all, but some of the issues, gender equity, safe cities, clean water above the ground, below the ground. The issues embrace the world with goals that, if we work together, would really change the face of poverty, education, communities, because it includes technology and advancements. And it's just an amazing set of global goals. And this year, they connected it because, let's face it, when you think of what the Ukraine pictures have looked like, and what the flood pictures look like, or what an earthquake pictures look like, and what a hurricane looked like, the end result is destruction. And we want to have a world that is safe for ourselves and for future generations. And so we have to work with what we can to keep the impacts as low as possible from natural disasters, address climate change, address how we live, but also to look at what we do for war. Does it make sense to decimate not just the ground on top, but leave all of the waste of billets and the pollution on the ground on the breadbasket of Europe? Seems like there's got to be a better way. And I don't know how we get there. You don't know how we get there. But I do think by praying together, by looking at our hearts and knowing that the hearts of a lot of people want a different world. They want safety, particularly for their children and particularly for future generations. Oh, well, here it is. We're back here. Never mind about Thursdays. This is the Sustainable Development Goal website, and you can find it. So let's just, goal number 1 is no poverty, 0 hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equity, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure, reduced inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, life on land. Goal 16 is peace, justice, and strong institutions. And 17 is partnerships, because there isn't one of these goals, not one, that doesn't relate to another, that doesn't relate probably to 2, 3, 5, all. And peace, justice, and good governance all relates, because if you don't have food, there's no way you can be at peace. If you don't have strong communities, the fighting and things. So the interconnectedness is something that the goals have stressed in both creation and in the execution. And I don't know what number you chose, but you might have seen it as it went through quickly. Did anyone pick one that they want to share? 4. Oh, was that education? Yeah. Yeah. How would I guess Sheila would pick 4? Does anyone else want to share one that they picked? 17. Oh, what a good thing. Oh yeah, they were designed that way and they are recognized that way. But what it also shows is You can't do them all at once. But somebody, if they're doing 4 and you're doing 16, 17, or 15 or 2, you can work together and you're still working on a common goal. And the interconnectedness to me has that sense, coming from an interfaith perspective, of what the goal is of so many faith and spiritual traditions. You know, when we're working towards the same thing, it doesn't make sense to fight. It really doesn't, but it does happen. And there's the reality in it and how we do it. So I just think we have both a personal and a collective responsibility to look at ourselves, to look at our communities, to look at our neighborhoods, to look at our children and future generations and see, what little thing can I do? And even if it isn't done daily, I have to say, I know that having the International Day of Peace in my life as one of those anchors has made me a better person, because you can't really talk about peace and really be horrible. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And so particularly at the UN, it's probably harder in my family, or particularly in a car. I did. My husband wants to know how many were familiar with the SDGs before we started this meeting today. So we did increase the number who have heard of the term now: Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, global goals. Yes? They do have those, and it's coming up. Actually, the Sustainable Development Goals followed on the Millennium Development Goals, and they were started in 2015. They have very specific targets and action items that governments are responsible for reporting on. And the review, the SDG Summit is happening this week at the UN. The governments do report on the targeted things, but it's not just the governments that matter. And poverty has been recognized in a lot of things, and education has shifted. And then when you do it statistically, and if you look at any of the increases that happen in the Ukraine, they're gone. So it is varied, and we're certainly not at the goal, but we at least have some targets and supposed intergovernmental agreement on where we need to go. So this year at the UN, we were celebrating the theme of the International Day of Peace, which was actions for peace. And a number of young people spoke. Some were going to be in for the climate change. Some came from around the world to actually come. I had one woman come with a group that I brought, who flew from Wisconsin to travel from Rutland, Vermont, to the UN as a Somalian refugee, to be able to carry her message that the problems of refugees isn't in how they can get acclimated, isn't as much for this particular group as how they get acclimated where they are. Because the United States, everybody was so grateful for their support from Vermont to Wisconsin in this particular group. But she said, our hearts are still going out to what is not being changed in Somalia. And what we can't do when you're living in one place and your heart is someplace else. And there's no way of solving it. I wish I had a magic wand. Absolutely. Yeah. Climate change it's in its own action, and that has been the one that has captured most of the youth. And actually, I found out this year, Code Pink is actually doing a march on the 21st showing the connection between climate change and war. And I don't know anyone who's doing it, but I saw it and said, it's amazing who's celebrating the International Day of Peace and how it's expanding in so many ways. And I have a very specific way that you can participate in the International Day of Peace this week. Thursday, September 21st. Each year, the internet, a group has taken on trying to create a global peace wave, to know for pausing for peace for 1 minute at 12 noon. Well, 12 noon goes in all of the time zones. So actually this is East Coast, so it's probably maybe 5 o'clock on the 20th through the 21st, midday. There are times at top of any hour you can connect with this peace wave that's happening someplace, because there are anchor peoples around the world praying and pausing for peace at 12 noon. Okay. Oh, thank you, Dave. Oh, let's give my husband a round of applause, please. He has just done this so many times in so many places. Dave, I thank you. You will have your time for questions and comments. Yes, Dave, I have that planned. Okay. So this is the United Nations early before it started on Thursday of this week. And, oh, right. Yes, I can. And the flags of the nations have been one of the ways that so many people have recognized the UN. So I am going, okay, keep going, Dave, please. Oh, okay, yeah, just throw them randomly around the room, please. The people were invited to come to celebrate the International Day of Peace. This is conference room 4, which I think Ron and Sheila have joined me in before. Yeah, twice. And we're up in the balcony section looking down. It was a totally full room. We had over 800 people there. And the program was outstanding. The UN did most of the planning. It used to be a small committee of us telling them who to invite, and the UN can get incredibly high. Oh, I only brought a few, because if you look on see the back, Betty, let me just see, would you give me one? Just a minute, we'll get back here. Each one got this so that when the people could go home, there's a QR code on here, so anyone can take a picture of to get to the goals. And it said, I attended the International Day of Peace youth event with the theme and the beautiful poster that the UN did. But the flags are so known. And one of the organizations I work with so closely is is now called May Peace Prevail on Earth, because the prayer that they use is, may peace prevail on earth. And so, but what time are we done? Oh, we have time. Okay, good. Okay, I'm going to move into this part anyway because it's fun. You can see that the youth were asked to hold up the pictures, or anyone who was there got a flag. I picked these up that people had left behind, which is why I don't have a whole set to pass out. And I took it home. You can give this back. Oh, you've got a couple. Okay. But what we did later in the afternoon was we had a service at the chapel across the street, the UN chapel. And I didn't include a flag ceremony picture, I don't think. But it was interfaith. And we sent our message of peace to every country of the UN and to every region of the world, because there are some places that are not part of the UN, not many at this point, but there are still some areas. We also sent our prayers to the water and to Antarctica, who didn't have any representation at the UN, who doesn't, and is particularly being impacted by climate change. So we wanted to make sure we brought in both the Sustainable Development Goals, but from our place there at the UN to send a message of peace and connectedness to another country. So what I'd like to do is, from Manhattan Beach, California, for you to pick an ocean, a country, a region, a continent, and hold it in your heart right now. So you ready? I'm going to go around, and or we can even say it together. Maybe we could, would you be comfortable standing up as we are just going around? What are you more comfortable doing? Go around, okay. Where are we sending our blessings?
I think I understand. I thought of Norway.
Norway. Let's say, may peace be in Norway.
May peace be in Norway.
May peace prevail on earth.
Ukraine.
Ukraine. May peace be in the Ukraine. May peace prevail on earth.
The United States.
May peace be in the United States. May peace prevail on earth.
Armenia.
May peace be in Armenia. May peace prevail on earth.
Mexico.
May peace be in Mexico. May peace prevail on earth.
Ukraine.
May peace be in Ukraine. May peace prevail on earth. Everybody in Zoom, you can say it together. We won't hear you, but you can use your term and say it right now. May peace be in. Thank you for joining us.
Iran.
Iran. May peace be in Iran. May peace prevail on earth.
China.
May peace be in China. May peace prevail on earth.
Africa.
May peace be in all of Africa. May peace prevail on earth.
Guatemala and Central America.
May peace be in Guatemala and Central America. May peace prevail on earth.
Saudi Arabia.
May peace be in Saudi Arabia. May peace prevail on earth.
Belize.
May peace be in Belize. May peace prevail on earth.
Mozambique.
May peace be in Mozambique. May peace prevail on earth.
Russia.
May peace be in Russia. May peace prevail on earth.
Afghanistan.
May peace be in Afghanistan. May peace prevail on earth.
Somalia.
May peace be in Somalia. May peace prevail on earth.
South America.
May peace be in South America. May peace prevail on earth.
Turkey.
May peace be in Turkey. May peace prevail on earth. And as we hold these countries and regions and continents in our heart, we know we didn't say them all. There are 163 member states. There are 2 observer states. There are some parts of the world that are not part of the United Nations. So let us just take a minute and hold everyone on the globe, all of the countries, the waters, the minerals, the air. And let's say together 3 times, may peace prevail on earth. 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 You've just been part of a mini flag ceremony. I have had the good fortune of doing flag ceremonies at the UN, in the General Assembly, at the International Day of Peace, and around the world. We've brought the flags to South America, different places in Africa, Europe. The May Peace Prevail on Earth Society started in Japan, and the prayer actually came from a spiritual leader, Masahisha Goi, who said, Japan received the atom bomb. It is up to Japan to return peace. So may peace prevail on earth. You'd think after doing it with all these years, I could say it in Japanese, and I wish I could, but I can't. But we tend to use it as part of our grace, and anybody who sits at our table gets to say it in whatever language they know and can say it. And so we always use Möge Friede allferden sein, because our daughter lives in Germany and our grandchildren are German as well as US. And we add Pus Budget Mir Na Zimlier, because our adopted son is from Kyrgyzstan, and he grew up speaking Russian And then as the Ukraine war came in, we even said it more. So, do we say another one? Oh, we can add Spanish and others. But if somebody has another language that you might like to say, may peace prevail on earth on, just raise your hand. Well, we're not having dinner, so I'm not going to put anybody on the spot. But I just want you to think about the fact that our prayers, our thoughts, our actions, be they small or large, make a difference wherever we are. And you are a part of advancing the global goals. And there is a hashtag called Global Goals, which is part of the International Day of Peace. So that if you want to register and say something, that just small acts, big acts, anything to advance the SDGs, you can go on and register and do that for your act of peace. But know that so many of us actually live acts of peace without even thinking about it. I mean, the person who parks sideways across 3 parking spaces is not creating peace. But the person who parks between the lines doesn't necessarily think that I'm doing something peaceful. You are. Just by being who you are, by being kind, by caring about somebody who's next to you or far away, you are creating peace. And peace in your heart is carried out and expands. You can turn it into the actions that you want to turn it into, whether it's bringing canned food for the hungry pantry or serving lunches or just saying hello to somebody who looks like they need a hello. It's amazing what can happen with a smile, a hello. But we are all peacemakers, and we're called to do as much as we can. And it's really, really easier when you have good friends that you can talk to, that you can be supported by in some of the crazy ideas, like slumber parties and other just fun things, because our celebrations are a part of peace building too. And so I invite you to celebrate who you are and to build peace, but I also want to know if you have any questions or comments.
Really, oh, really, isn't everybody for peace, except for some leadership that can, it only takes one bad leader to destroy the earth. But all of us are, really for peace, right? Everywhere.
Yep, and it's kind of amazing, but it isn't even just leadership. One gun in the wrong hands. It's amazing how even words, I mean, think of the people who have now been so upset with the words from internet exchanges. We have power in our actions. I'm sorry, I was just.
Oh, I thought you wanted to say something.
I'm always curious when I learn about new nonprofit organizations. Are you a 501c3 organization?
Mm-hmm.
How do you get your money? What's your source of revenue? And what are the major proportion of your expenditures? What does it go to?
What's the name of the thing that shows good governance for an organization, and it shows where the breakouts are? There's a way of being rated. Guide Star. Yeah, okay. Where you get our money, primarily, the Episcopal Bishop of the state of California in San Francisco, who knows half the world. It really takes someone like Ron Troupe, Bill Swing. It takes some really dedicated people who know how to touch people's hearts as well as their pocketbooks. And to get people to realize and to truly appreciate that when you write a check, you really are committed. Or when you make a donation on the internet now, because I don't know how many people even write checks anymore. But it is important that when you give to some of these organizations, GuideStar shows you how much they put into their programming and people and this kind of thing. And for us, one of the biggest things, and that's been a big problem in most of the countries, is that we do not fund the organizations, the cooperation circles, we call them around. They are self-supporting. So it usually takes someone with a vision and a lot of hard work. It's online. Dave will look it up for you. I'm bad at doing my expense report, and because I feel guilty taking any money for what I'm doing, quite honestly. This is not my area, but I know we do okay on the GuideStar. Thank you. But it's important, and I mean, particularly if you're giving gifts to little kids, I'll put in a plug, not for my organization. World Wildlife Fund has the greatest Christmas catalog, and your grandchild can learn about both the ecosystem and where a stuffed animal lives that they get sent by giving them a donation. And it's like, that's a way, such a beautiful way that everybody wins, because you want to give your 501c3 money to someplace. The kids get a stuffed toy, but they learn about the environment. And to me, that more we can do for partnerships, for 17, in so many ways, makes such a big difference. And it's not just writing a check, it really does make a difference. And quite honestly, I'd rather write a check for a stuffed animal than a yard sign, but that's, and I just want us to know that we do make a difference by who we give to and where it goes. So, yeah. Are there any other questions?
Yes. What have you done with we have someone on virtual who does sign language, and then we still have the deaf, the blind and the deaf. We still have that community that we need to get involved in how to communicate.
Betty, you are so right. And I have to say that Zoom has done a whole lot for us as an organization, because you can do different translations. And it is really exciting to be able to have a monthly call with women from around the world with a translator on it. But that doesn't take care of sign or deaf. And I just want to give you an example of one of the cooperation circles that I know of in India, who work with the Dali population and try to deal with the racism in India. I know that we have active programs in the United States looking for inclusion around, there's all kinds of things, but the programs not only address a local issue, and this is an old story. They had a blood drive in India a number of years ago, and everybody gave blood, and it was the first time that class was not considered in the donation. And by getting people together for a blood drive, because people needed blood at the hospitals, and using a blood typing system instead of your class system, it brought people together so the town could buy an ambulance that had never been purchased before for them. And then they unlocked a cemetery that had been locked for over 100 years because nobody could decide who could really be buried in it. And they changed the rules because they spent some time giving blood together, buying an ambulance, and then they could look at something that had divided their community beyond belief. So sometimes that little starts make a huge ripple effect. And I'm not one who likes to measure stuff, and sometimes numbers are really important, I get it. But I do want to really encourage you to add your prayers to the Peace Wave on the International Day of Peace as one action of peace that you can take as you leave this room. And maybe bring a can of food to your next food drive, or some other really positive action that makes a difference for your local community.
Well, we do. Oh.
I
Okay,
love it
thank
when you
you.
give a problem that turns into an amazing solution that you will appreciate long after the little distraction of a noise. So thank you.
Two things. Is it working? Yeah. Two things. Who asked the question about the finances of URI? So the annual expenditures are about 3.1 million, and about half of that is going to personnel. Reason being, that's high, I know, if you look on Charity Navigator, but it's a grassroots organization, so they're paying regional coordinators in the various countries to put together these cooperation circles that really are the mission of the organization. So that's how it works, but this is online. That's how I found it. My other question is for my wife, Monica, so I better sit down to ask her. The gentleman who mentioned in the back, all it takes is a few bad leaders. Why don't you talk about where the nuclear weapons are located and how they would get launched? That's pretty sobering.
Well, there are 9 nuclear power countries at this point. And of course, I'm sorry, what? 9, only 9. 9 countries have nuclear weapons. And of course, over 90% are within 2 countries, ours and Russia. And it was very interesting. We saw a movie a number of years ago when we had gone to an event in Vienna, and it showed The Man Who Saved the World, and the day for the total elimination of nuclear weapons is September 26th. And the man who saved the world from a nuclear response to what ended up being weather balloons from Russia, it's his personal story. And he got fired for not following orders, but he did not launch the nuclear weapons because there had been no red flags that would have caused this kind of an incoming thing. And it didn't make sense to him that this would be nuclear weapons coming into Russia. And he designed the code. And because he designed the code, and he was the general who happened to be on charge that day, he did not follow the rule to start the exchange because there was an incoming attack. And that movie you can find on Netflix or something. It's a very fascinating movie, The Man Who Saved the World. As we're about to close, for those who would feel comfortable, though, is there any more questions? I would like us to say the nuclear prayer out loud because that's going to be my act of peace today, to do that with you and to be here with you. It is a real joy.
We'll kind of wait for a little bit to close because I'm sure we have a bit more discussion we can do.
Oh, okay.
But a couple of things I should have taken notes so I could remember. We happen to have been at the UN with Dave and Monica the day, the US decided to start the Iraqi war, or was, it was bomb Iraq. There were news trucks all out that day in front of the UN thinking that we were going to go there and we were going to have a discussion. And instead, that morning, bombs started dropping. And then we happened to be at the UN the day that, I'm going to let her follow up with how this all fits in. Yes, got the notice that they were getting the Nobel Peace Prize. So please tell them about how that's all connected.
The treaty to prohibit nuclear weapons has taken effect, but with a UN resolution treaty, only the countries that sign on to the treaty are responsible for the terms and regulations. So no nuclear power weapon or umbrella nation has signed on to that treaty, but it calls for the elimination of nuclear weapons, but also the threat for the transportation from one to another. I mean, Germany isn't listed as a nuclear power weapon, and maybe we've moved our weapons out of Germany at this point, but we have nuclear weapons in other countries. And so under TPNW, that's illegal, and of course none of them signed on. the thought that we could defend one another with nuclear weapons is, in my mind, theoretical, tends to make sense. But if you've never read Hiroshima or looked at the results of what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, everything breaks down. That bomb was so small compared to what we would have today. The actual thought of any kind of use of nuclear weapons and what it would do to the earth, to civilization, it is mind-boggling, because you would not have the infrastructure to deal with the issues that arise, not to mention what gets evaporated. And so the moral call, if you have not seen Oppenheimer, I really encourage you to see that movie, because it talks about the moral decision. And we don't get into the morality of what we are doing around some of these things. And it's time we do that again and bring it into our prayers, our hearts, our sermons, our caring, because the money that goes towards nuclear weapons, Gorbachev and Ronald Reagan agreed in 1986 that a nuclear war can never be won. Therefore, it should never be fought. In 2022, Putin and Biden reaffirmed that a nuclear war can never be won. Therefore, it should never be fought. There is no winning when everybody loses. Mutually assured destruction had a nice term to it, but it's suicide. And so it's time we reverse this, because just the mindset that it's okay to be suicidal is very scary. And it's money, and the use is for something that's never going to be used. And I know it's a really trite analogy, and I think I'm with an audience who can at least appreciate it. It would be like Imelda Marcos buying another 12 pairs of shoes. We can destroy the world now. And to think about the fact that there's even talk about it being done with AI, we're moving into a whole new world. So it's time to make the change now and time to bring it into our hearts.
I also wanted to kind of go back to something that happened to me because of Monica, and that was the fact that I was able to attend the 1995 United Nations Women's Conference in Beijing, China, which was extremely significant for me. I called it my journey of faith. I left Los Angeles a Saturday morning. Ron took me to the airport. I said, well, I may be back in a couple of hours, at the end of the day, at the end of the week, I don't know, or I may be gone for 2 weeks. And as it turned out, we were gone. My sister-in-law, his sister, and I were gone for 2 weeks to the women's conference, but I left home with a ticket to San Francisco, thinking that I was going to possibly be able to catch a flight from San Francisco to Beijing. So we get to San Francisco. I'm standing in a long line for the ticket counter, and I'm wondering, now what am I going to say when I get up to this guy? I don't have my passport. I don't have a ticket. I don't have a hotel. I have nothing in hand. And my best friend in Colorado was going to send her daughter, and decided on the Monday before we left that I can't do this. But there were a couple of teenage girls, and because there were a couple of teenage girls, one had come from Colorado, we kind of took them under our wings, and as I'm standing there, third from the counter, a woman who came in actually from Colorado herself said, I've got tickets for the people with what I forgot, majority something group. the MFP, whatever whatever the group was, the non-governmental organization that was sponsoring this. And they had everybody's, because even Hillary Clinton hadn't gotten her documentation, so I felt I was at least in important company. All the information came in a envelope. So we had our hotel, we had our tickets, we could get on the plane. So I was headed out for 2 weeks, and it was amazing. Women from all over the world, women from all over India who couldn't understand one another because of their dialects. And we would get in a room, and one woman would translate for another woman, and another woman would translate for another one. Their stadium for the opening and closing ceremonies was just absolutely amazing because of the number of people that they managed to get on a field, and things that they would pass around in the stadium. And I mean, if you've never been to a conference in an international arena kind of thing, please make it your point of going to something like that. It was just absolutely amazing. And I have to say, because we were in China, my occupation put me on the level right after diplomat. My occupation was teacher. I mean, we were in the best of hotels. We were separated from our students from that, but it was amazing. And I did manage to get myself in trouble with I don't know if it's the Chinese police or the hotel police, who were in plain clothes, but every floor had monitors. And because we were having some kind of interesting problems with the NGO, we went down to see if we could rent a room and meet together, because all of us had not met from all across the country, and we wanted some way of just getting to know one another. Well, it was going to be very expensive to rent a room, so we decided to have it in our room. Well, oh my goodness. The next day, I opened the door to go to breakfast, and there's 2 plainclothes guards in front of our door. So anyway, we were followed and monitored after quite closely. But it was an amazing time, and all of this because of Monica telling me, you know, you can go to China for this, and I was all for it. So thank you again.
Thank you for being such a good representative. The beginning and the end are in your hands, O Creator of the universe. Please read with me. And in our hands you have placed the fate of this planet. We, who are tested by having both creative and destructive power in our free will, turn to you in sober fear and intoxicating hope. We ask for your guidance and to share in your imagination in our deliberations about the use of nuclear force. Help us to lift the fog of atomic darkness that hovers so pervasively over our Earth, your Earth, so that soon all eyes may see life magnified by your pure light. Bless all of us who wait today for your presence and who dedicate ourselves to achieve your intended peace in rightful equilibrium on earth. In the name of all that is holy and all that is hoped. Amen. And then I always add, May peace prevail on earth.
All right. Thank you.
I just want to thank everyone for being here, and especially the people on Zoom. And Ryan, thank you. And thank you, Dave, for your tech and suggestions. And Sheila, I thank you, treasure your friendship with you and Ron. And I am so honored, I have to tell you, we joined a UCC church in Thousand Oaks because my friend Sheila was part of this community at that point. And when we lived in Thousand Oaks, we were also part of the UCC and continued with that in New York. And I got to go to the Earth Summit with a delegation from the United Church of Christ in 1992. And so there's a deep spiritual connection here, and I thank you.
She's a Reformed Catholic.
Proudly.
I just want to tell you about what's going to happen next week. Can you hear it okay? So next week our speaker is Charlie Tuthill, who is the husband of my last PhD student at UCLA and a wonderful guy. He has a PhD in political science from Syracuse and teaches at a private high school in Los Angeles, which is called the School of Los Angeles, which I think is a very strange name, but apparently it's a very good private high school that's associated with the Episcopal Church. Anyway, he's going to talk on the subject of race and the origins of our economic system. He sent me a really long abstract about it, which I edited down slightly for what is going to be in the preview, and I think hopefully it'll be in the bulletin this morning. You can read it. He's going to start with medieval times and how race was used as an economic indicator and helped to develop the wonderful economic system that we have today. His focus is the acquisition of capital, so you'll see. But anyway, he's a really interesting speaker, and I think you'll enjoy it, and I hope you can all be here.
Okay, the UN can be looked at from many, many different ways, very specific issues, specific countries. You can add spirit to that which you care about as an NGO. I don't have to represent my government or anything else. And so you got a very narrow focus, but I hope one that brings joy and action with your prayers for the International Day of Peace.
Yeah, definitely.
It doesn't matter. The UN did this wonderful thing. Yes, I forgot the goodies.
Thanks for your passion and involvement.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you. Have a pen or a pin.